What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to another SGN video where it's all sim all the time. Today's video is a little bit different for me. I don't do these types of things very often. However, I did feel inspired due to the release of college football and Madden in the same year for the first time in over a decade. And with college football's release, we see how great Dynasty mode is, and you know, it just had me thinking about Madden's franchise mode and what it used to be, what it currently is now, and I just really wanted to talk about that because, you know, Madden's franchise used to be very immersive. It had a lot of features, and for whatever reason, they decided to take them all away. Now, in recent years, they have started to slowly bring those features back. And this isn't going to be a video talking about features that Madden needs to bring to the series to give us a better and deeper franchise experience. And in fact, we're going to talk about the existing features in Madden 24 and Madden 25 that need a lot of work. And they're just implemented incorrectly to where if they were to actually change how these functioned, I think the franchise mode experience would be a whole lot better for everybody involved. So make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel as we buckle up, dive in, break down everything that needs to be changed in Madden franchise mode going forward. Let's go.
And Bonds hits right high. It's a dig. It is out. This is caught. Diggs. Sideline. Touchdown. Unbelievable. Bryant for the win. Bang. Watch out. He's got getting away from the top speed. By Michael Short.
Alright, so I've put this video together structurally, and you'll see why. I think you're going to enjoy it. So the first thing we're going to talk about is on the home screen and the news tab. You know, a lot of times immersion comes with things to do in the game. And scrolling over to the news tab here, we have this is a very cool little panning view of Lambeau Field. I do like this. But when you look at the right side here where you get some information in a Twitter format, there's really not much content there. It's really just, you know, talking about scores. That's it. There's nothing to it. There's really not much to look here, and this is boring. There's no immersion here. The news tab used to be so much better in Madden. It used to have so much more information, immersion. It was really cool, and it actually gave you something to do week to week, and it was something that you would want to go look at week to week to get your information from what was going on around the league. Now, there's really no reason to go to the news tab other than to get scores, which you could find elsewhere. Moving down the list here, we're going to talk about things to do from week to week. And one of the next things that you'd see pop up right here is your scouting. And the thing is, scouting used to be very fun in Madden. There was things to do every single week because you had a lot of control. Right now, they did bring us a new scouting feature in Madden, but unfortunately, it took away a lot of our control week to week. So right now, you got this new cool Players Notes tab, which unfortunately, as cool as it is, it's redundant. They use the same things over and over and over again, and all that really matters when you're scouting a player is their physicals. Their skills don't matter as much. Physicals are the most important, and the player notes honestly just boil down to player traits, right? When you look at it, it talks about their throwing motion, their sense pressure, if they throw spirals. It's all trait-based, right? But if you're a user, traits don't really matter, right? Because you control that person. And then as far as scouting goes, all the information that you're getting from week to week, you might as well just get it in week 17 or week 18 because they're scouted 30, 40, 50%. You're not really getting that much new information. There's no reason to look at this every single week. There's really not. You can find all the information and accomplish just as much looking at the end of the season and building your draft board. And that's why they need to fix scouting and bring it back to a more realistic, intuitive experience where we have control. We get to do things. Right now, scouting is boring. It pops up every single week of things to do, but you're not doing anything. You're barely gaining any information, and it's boring. There's really no reason to utilize it. We got to address scouting. Next is weekly strategy, guys. I could talk about this for an hour. I'm trying not to. I don't want to make this video very long, but the strategy and game plans in Madden are completely arcadish. These are not realistic. This is not how teams game plan. All right, you would game plan against a team. You want to run to the outside because it's their defensive weakness or because it's your strength. You shouldn't get attribute bonuses for attacking a defense's weakness. They're already weak there. Why do you need a bonus there, right? It doesn't make sense where they give you bonuses and negatives. If you want to run outside, great. You're not going to be able to run inside very good. If you want to run inside, oh, now you can't run outside. That's not how it works. Your game plan is because you're going to focus on either attacking something that the CPU does not do well or something you do very well, right? And again, when you're looking at how you want to defend their passing, okay, obviously you're looking at passing rating. So what are you going to do? Just defend either the deep pass or the short pass. Okay, but there's more to it than that. Okay, you're going to defend deep passing. You're going to give up more underneath stuff. We know that. That's part of playing the game, but they're taking negatives, attributes away from players when they shouldn't. Just the play calling itself of taking the deep pass away is going to just naturally give you more things underneath so you don't get beat over the top. So I really hate how they do this game planning where you're focusing on things you want to do, but you get an attribute bump for something you want to do and you get an attribute nerf for something you want to do. And that's just not how it works. You're focusing on something your team excels at because of your personnel or because of something the CPU or the other team does not have the right personnel or the strong personnel. They don't defend it well, whatever the case may be. There's already buffs and nerfs there if you do that right. The information is here. The stats are here. We don't need buffs. We don't need nerfs. Change up your game plan. And not only that, but when you go into your game planning goals, right? These are the worst. I don't know what else to say. They're worst. They make no sense. 95% of these goals are irrelevant, right? Allow 2 or less passing TDs. Why? That's a goal. What if I give up 7 touchdowns on the ground but I didn't give up my 2 touchdowns in the air? I still get my points. Throw for 2 passing TDs. Again, okay, throw for 2 passing TDs, but let's change the game plans to things that are more realistic to what teams actually do. All right, let's get rid of all these artificial throw for X amount of yards, get X amount of sacks, get X amount of turnovers, right? That's not how it works. All right, time of possession, win the turnover battle, getting pressure. Unfortunately, Madden doesn't track pressures or quarterback knockdowns, but sacks don't necessarily tell the whole story. Getting pressure on a quarterback, disrupting him to create off-target throws or disrupting the timing between him and his wide receiver has a huge impact on how a team plays and is successful. Third down conversion percentages, big plays, right? They talk about it every single week when you watch a game. They talk about a team and how many big plays they have on the season, or if they're struggling getting big plays. Vice versa, a team that gives up a lot of big plays or doesn't. Going for big plays, going for average down and distance, going for various other factors that are realistic outside of just X amount of offensive TDs and X amount of yards. Again, these don't really have any implication on winning. You can do all these things and lose. Granted, of course, you could go ahead and win the time of possession and have a strong third down conversion rating and all that stuff and still lose. But those things are much more realistic as far as your goal to try to win a game than any of these here. And these are just very arcadish and artificial, and we need to have realistic game goals brought in from week to week. And you know what's crazy is Madden actually used to have them, and we'll talk about that later in the video. But as we continue going down through, we talked about the game planning and how it's just unrealistic with, the buffs and the nerfs to what you want to do. And we talked about the goals for it. But you'd think, okay, when you actually go in and play a game, you're going to get a realistic game plan, right? Like you're going to get a game plan that's put together by the AI in Madden that is built around what you want for a game plan. Well, unfortunately, that's not the case. Unfortunately, your game plan is just every call that's defend short pass, which is a bunch of cover 1 and a little bit of cover 2. That's your defend. This is your game plan. This is not how game plans work. Whether you're on defense or offense, that is not how a game plan works. And Madden has the tools. They have the formations. They have the technology. They have the information to know what teams like to run on various down and distances, what packages they use, and they could build a realistic game plan designed to attack their usage rates in the things they like to call, just as they should do that to you opposite wise, right? And you don't have to take my word for it. Kurt Benkert, former NFL quarterback, former Packer, shout out, go Pack go. All y'all know I'm a huge fan. He's been doing YouTube videos for Madden, and he actually shows what it's like to call plays as a real NFL quarterback.
Have you ever wanted to call plays like an NFL offensive coordinator? I'm going to show you how. We're going to dive into their call sheet, how they break it down, how they come up with their plays, the personnel, and everything in between, and we're going to use Madden to do that. Let's dive in. The first category that we're going to dive into are the openers. These are top 20, 25 plays of the week that the offensive coordinator loves, feels like he can use to get into a rhythm, and they're going to be called on 1st and 10 or 2nd and 7 or less. Basically, he takes everything, all the information that he gets that week from the defense, how do they play in base, how do they play in nickel, who does he have available, what's their scheme, and everything to come up with these top plays to go attack the defense. Sometimes you even throw out a bunch of different personnels to get information for later in the game to know how they're going to adjust to it. Shanahan, using his openers from one of our games, we're going to go in and kind of see what it looks like and what some of these plays look like in Madden. So in this particular game plan that I'm taking from, it was week 8 of the 2022 season against the Los Angeles Rams. The formations and how we're going to end up is going to be very similar in Madden, but the personnel that he uses is going to be a little bit different. But basically, starting the game with a choice stick nod, this would be called Looky Ninja, and then probably going to expect some sort of cover 3, maybe some quarters depending on who we're playing against. In this look, this is a way to say, hey, what are they going to do when we go into empty? He calls this early because he wants to know how they're going to adjust for later in the game. This play in particular, it's going to go Deebo Samuel to George Kittle to Juwan Jennings, and then if you really love one of your outside go balls, then you can take it, but probably not thinking that first play of the game. You're going to go left, he's out, got A, cross the middle, come back to it, and get down. And so this would lead us into the next play. This would say 1st and 10. On the openers, we would go to our very next play. So we have a toss 38 Zorro seal, and basically this comes with a dummy Mayday, which is a fake can, makes the defense believe, oh, maybe we're going one high, they're going to can it to a pass. So he has a lot of dummies in his system, which I really do like about it. So we can get into this formation pretty similar to what we'd be doing. A Zorro would be an outside zone. Now we're going to say they're going to go some sort of 3B. This is a play that he sees, that he likes, and typically what we would do is we would swap this to the opposite side if we like better leverage, and we're going to let it run. We're going to see what happens, going to cut it up. Cool. So this now would lead to 2nd and 7 or less, which would get us to our next opener play. So the next play that he had was a 37 counter with an Oscar and a dummy Mayday with a motion. I don't know if we can get all of that in Madden, but basically it's going to be another heavy run package, counter Y, gun bunch X nasty. Defense is going to adjust because we're getting the ball ran all over them, and they're going to go to a little over, probably bring a safety pressure. Look, he's going to come down, and we like this. We're going to run away from the safety pressure. They're going to have to cut it off in the backside, and this is a heavy box. This is how the defense starts to adjust based on what we're trying to do, and we'll get 3 yards. In a real game plan, we would say, okay, it's 2nd.
All right, so I'm not going to have the full video in here. You can find that on his YouTube channel. It's a great video, but you can see here, we are not getting what teams actually do when they build game plans from week to week. We're not getting that in Madden, although they have the information, they have the capability to do it. They're just not giving it to us. And so we need to have realistic game planning built into the game. That's just, it's it. Right now it's a pointless feature with how it's currently implemented. The other thing that's really bad is schemes. So the Saints default scheme is multiple power run, which is a 62% fit. So every single player has an arc time that has to fit into this scheme. And if you don't have a scheme fit, you're not going to get your XP boost, which we all know how I feel about XP for progression, right? When you have things like this, all my defense is 100%, so I'm getting all these boosts because every single player falls into that archetype. But offensively, 62% because I don't have all my wide receivers fitting the vertical threat scheme or the possession, whatever it is, right? So you have to go through and change your scheme just to get as much XP as possible. It's unrealistic. That's not how it works. Players move around from teams to teams regardless of schemes. Now we know that Madden needs to move from edge rusher or bring in edge rusher instead of having defensive end and outside linebacker, but they still don't do it. Now, if we go back to Madden 25 on the PS4, this game's 11 years old. Came out the same time the last college football game came out, and look what we have here. So if you tab over to the news screen, look at this news screen. So this is preseason, so we're not going to have a ton of news here, but look what we got here. We got injury news that happened in the preseason. We got cut news. We got signing news. You get, and you have little cool photos showing the players, right? This is so much more immersive. Going through here and scrolling and seeing everything that's happened, players that have been released, players that have gotten hurt. This is immersive. This is fun. And when you go through the season more, you get re-sign player info, you get trade block player info, you get all sorts of really cool information on top of scores and stats and things like that. This is so much more immersive than what we have now. This game's 11 years old. They took this immersion away from us. I don't know why. Now, when we go to scouting, this is the scouting that I think is a lot more fun and immersive, and it's very similar to recruiting in college football, which people loved. Is you had skill points that you could go through, and you could pick out players that you wanted to target specifically, and you used your skill points to go and unlock different ratings for said players, and this would allow you to target certain players, and if you ended up not liking some of the ratings, you move on. This gave you control of how you scouted. It allowed you uncover players, and ultimately it gave you something to do from week to week. And what was really cool is based on your team's head coach and scouting and stuff like that, you'd have different skill point amounts. So it was different, based on the team that you were in. But either way, this is so much more fun than what we currently have, where you really just don't have to do anything until the off season and build your draft board. So again, bring back scouting that actually means something. Now, Madden 14 on PS4, did not have the game planning that we do now. They did have game planning as far as play recommendations, which, by the way, they had a game plan for run, a game plan for pass, they had aggressive, they have conservative, they had a way better play call suggestion than they do currently in Madden. But you actually had to practice, and you got to practice scenarios. Right now in franchise mode, when you go to practice, you're just going there and running random plays against random defenses. There's nothing to it. Right here, you actually get to practice scenarios. And if you complete the scenario, if you're successful, your team got XP, which I do like that. I don't like the XP system overall, but I do like how it was implemented here. So you could go in here and you'd have to choose one of these scenarios. You complete it in a practice arena, and that's actually meaningful, right? That makes you actually want to go into practice from week to week. Oh, by the way, the practice arena was an actual practice unit like they have now. Like right now, it's a dome, it's a practice facility, it's inside like they have in real life. And here's, you can see the scenario, 4 minutes left to go in the fourth quarter, and we're tied 27, and this is a scenario where you got to go down and win the game with 4 minutes left. Cool scenario. We're obviously not going to play the whole thing, just wanted to show you guys that. Why don't we have that anymore? Why is practice mode just going there and run random plays versus a random defense? I don't understand. Speaking of goals, right? Goals are so good in Madden 25 PS4. I want you to look at this, right? I've talked about the team goals, right, that are stupid ridiculous. We went over that. Look at the player goals here. So for Sam Bradford, level 1 is anything over 1 passing TD, and then he goes up and up and up. And then he has his yards for weekly goal. 300 yards, 24 completions, 3 passing touchdowns. I love that. All right. I love that you have a goal for 24 completions or 3 passing TDs. And then here are some of the upgrades you can do. What's really cool about the goals is if you choose to try to go all in on that, you're not going to get the goals for Daryl Richardson, where look at that. 1,500 yards rushing for the season is a season goal, as the hardest one, or 1,000's there, 750. Weekly goals, 90 yards rushing. Why is 90 yards rushing there? Well, if he gets 90 yards rushing a week, he's going to get his hard season goal. 2 rushing touchdowns, 5 yards a carry. I love this. You're not going to be able to do both. You're not going to be able to do get Daryl Richardson and Sam Bradford their stats. You just play the game, whatever happens. Wide receivers, their goals are tied around catches, which I think is super cool. You have season goals for catches. And, again, I love the tier list, gets you different XP. I think that's fantastic. Weekly goals, receiving yards. Why are the receiving yards there? Well, that amount of receiving yards gets him his hardest season goal. And if you were curious, like, hey, what does it look like for offensive linemen? This is where I think they really excelled. And why this has been removed, I have no idea, you guys. But the offensive line, their season goal is team rushing yards. I think that's amazing. So it's a unit of success. And their weekly goal is, again, a unit of success. Rushing yards. And it changes from week to week. Rushing yards, passing yards. So you're not just trying to constantly get rushing yards every single week because that benefits your offensive line. That would obviously be a little crazy. But the fact that they have these team goals that benefit all of your offensive line if you're able to accomplish something as a unit is fantastic. And you go to the defensive side. Okay, defensive end in the 4-3. Chris Long, sacks, right? Very hard to be 12 sacks. I think that's fantastic. I love that. And then you look at his weekly goals, get 1 sack. That's a great goal. And then either passing yards or rushing yards allowed. I think the passing yards allowed is definitely really, really hard. 175, that's not very many passing yards. If you ask me. But anyway, you going through here, cornerbacks. It's going to be interceptions. Not just interceptions, though. When you go to the weekly goals, you got don't allow a passing TD and get an interception, or passing yards allowed. That's a team goal. I think this is fantastically done. And if Madden were to bring these goals back instead of the ones that we have now, I think it'd be so much more immersive, intuitive. It'd be more balance, it'd just be more fun, right? It wouldn't be so arcadey. Speaking of arcadey and stuff, going to schemes, right? We got to choose our scheme, but our scheme didn't have an impact on the type of player we could have. We got to choose if we wanted our halfback one to be a one cut back, a receiving back. We could choose what we wanted for quarterback, pocket passer, West Coast, scrambler, strong arm, right? We got to choose that. It didn't matter what the scheme was. We got to choose what we wanted. And if you go down the line, it wasn't where you chose a wide receiver and all of your wide receivers had to be slot receivers. All of them had to be possession. No, you got to pick. Wide receiver 1, I want to be a deep threat. Wide receiver 2, I want to be possession. Wide receiver 3, I want to be red zone or route runner or whatever the case may be. You got to change that for every single position that was in a starting lineup. You got to choose and build your team around that. They took this control away from us and made it so every single player has to fit into a scheme. And so now you have to have, if you run a scheme, you have to have all 5 wide receivers be slot or deep threat, which is not realistic. That's not how it works. And it's just very frustrating to me, guys. I think if they were to just build off of these features that they have in Madden right now and reevaluate how they're bringing us these features, how game planning works, how goals work for the team. Bring us back player goals, too. Give us realistic goals. Bring back scouting in a fun, immersive way. Give more information, things to look at from week to week. Give us more immersion. Scenarios aren't it. All right, the scenarios are redundant, repetitive. I know they're adding new ones for Madden 25, but it's still irregardless. It's just asking how you want me to get this player better. I also hate breakout scenarios, right? Because then you're focusing on, okay, if this player gets 150 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns, he gets a better dev trait. So when you go out and play that game, are you playing that game to win and just letting things come to you? No, you're trying to force that running back to get 150 yards and 2 touchdowns because you want that dev trait. I hate breakout scenarios. I hate them. That's not simulation. That's not realistic. That's not how it works in real life either. A guy doesn't just get good because he did that, right? He doesn't get a breakout scenario or just a dev upgrade from doing that, 1 to 2 to 3 weeks over, right? Guys get on hot streaks in the NFL. We've seen it all the time. We've seen running backs go for 200 yards. What was it? Ajayi? He did it with the Dolphins, and then what happened, right? Jonas Gray, running back for the Patriots. Look what happened there. Quarterbacks get on hot streaks and then fall off, and nothing ever happens of it. So there needs to be a different method with how they do the scenarios and what the scenarios are actually there for, and and make it more realistic in their immersion. So anyway, guys, I just wanted to take a moment to talk to you. I really feel like Madden's franchise has a ton of potential, but right now, in its current state, it's just not working. And they got to make changes. They got to bring us features that are built more around realism instead of arcade. I know arcade is at their core. You see it with how they do MUT, which, by the way, has one of the most realistic simulation features that isn't in franchise, which is team chemistry. Why isn't that a franchise feature? It's in MUT, but it's not in franchise. So much potential for Madden franchise. Why they aren't giving it to us, I don't know. I'm hoping that they're going to bring it to us, because college football's dynasty is every person who plays a franchise mode's dream, with the depth and the realism and how it's built. We deserve that in Madden franchise. I hope you guys liked the video, and yeah, as always, stay tuned to the next one. Peace.